Young and the Restless Spoilers Saturday's Update, full episodes 8/24/2024. The tension in the air was palpable as Chelsea sat alone in her living room, silence around her amplifying the turmoil within. Her mind raced, replaying the events of the past few weeks, trying to make sense of the mess her life had become. Billy had walked out on her, leaving their already fragile relationship in ruins. She had confessed her betrayal, thinking that honesty would somehow pave the way for forgiveness, but instead, it had shattered whatever trust remained between them. Chelsea had hoped that time would heal the wounds, that Billy might find it in his heart to forgive her. But deep down, she knew that the damage was irreversible. Their relationship had always been complicated, filled with highs and lows, but this time felt different. There was a finality to it, a sense that no amount of apologies could mend what had been broken. As she sat there, lost in thought, part of her still clung to the hope that Billy might come back, that he might see the love they once shared and choose to fight for. The more she thought about it, the more she realized that it was unlikely. Billy was a man of principle, someone who valued loyalty above all else, and she had betrayed that trust in the worst possible way. Even if he did forgive her, the foundation of their relationship had been irreparably damaged. Chelsea sighed, running a hand over her growing belly. The baby had added another layer of complexity to her already chaotic life. She still didn't know who the father was, whether it was Billy, Adam, and the uncertainty weighed heavily on her. She had decided to wait until the baby was further along before conducting a DNA test, but the anxiety of not knowing gnawed at her constantly. As much as she wanted to believe that Billy might be willing to work things out if the baby was his, Chelsea knew that it was a long shot. Billy had made it clear that he didn't want anything to do with her after the betrayal, and she doubted that the news of a baby would change that. If anything, it might make things worse. And then there was Adam. Chelsea had reached out to him, informing him of the pregnancy and the possibility that he could be the father. His reaction had been measured, cautious even. Adam had assured her that he would take responsibility if the baby was his, but there was no warmth in his words, no sense of excitement or joy. Adam had moved on with Sally, and his focus was on building a future with her, not revisiting the past with Chelsea. Speaking of Sally, Chelsea couldn't help but be baffled by her reaction to the news of Adam's infidelity. Most women would be furious, devastated even, to learn that their partner had slept with someone else. But Sally had taken the news in stride, almost as if it didn't matter to her. She had forgiven Adam without hesitation, a move that left Chelsea puzzled. Why would she do that? Chelsea muttered to herself, her brows furrowing in confusion. Is she really that naive, or is there something else going on? Chelsea couldn't shake the feeling that Sally's reaction was too good to be true. Was it possible that Sally had her own agenda, some hidden motive that Chelsea wasn't privy to? Or was Sally simply willing to overlook Adam's mistakes because she was so deeply in love with him? Either way, it didn't sit right with Chelsea. In her experience, people didn't forgive that easily, unless they had something to gain from it. As these thoughts swirled in her mind, Chelsea found herself growing increasingly uneasy. Sally had always been a wild card, someone who could be both charming and cunning when it suited her. Chelsea knew that she couldn't afford to underestimate her, especially now that Adam was involved. The stakes were too high, and there was too much at risk. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Jack Abbott was grappling with his own set of challenges. The revelation that Victor Newman was behind the Glissade conspiracy had sent shockwaves through Djibouti. Jack had always known that Victor was a formidable opponent, but this time, the stakes were higher than ever. With Adam's help, Jack had managed to uncover the details of Victor's plan, but that didn't mean the danger had passed. In fact, it was just beginning. Jack stood in his office, staring out the window at the city below. His mind was a whirlwind of thoughts, each one more troubling than the last. He had spent his entire life building Djibouti into the powerhouse it was today, and the thought of losing it all was almost too much to bear. Victor's vendetta against him had escalated to new heights, and Jack knew that if he wasn't careful, everything he had worked for could come crashing down. Can't let that happen. Jack muttered under his breath, his jaw clenching with determination. I won't let him win. But despite his resolve, Jack couldn't shake the feeling of impending doom. Victor had always been ruthless, willing to go to any lengths to get what he wanted. And now, with the stakes so high, Jack knew that he couldn't afford to make any mistakes. One wrong move, and Jabot could be lost forever. Diane entered the office, her expression serious. She could see the strain on Jack's face, the worry lines that had deepened over the past few weeks. He walked over to him, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Jack, we're in this together, Diane said softly. Whatever Victor throws at us, we'll face it head-on. Jack nodded, grateful for her support. Diane had been a constant in his life, someone he could rely on even when things got tough. But even with her by his side, the weight of the situation felt overwhelming. The battle against Victor wasn't just about business, it was personal. And the cost of losing could be devastating. I know, Diane, Jack replied, his voice heavy with the burden of responsibility. But this isn't just another business rivalry. If we lose this fight, we could lose everything. Jabot, our family, our future, it's all on the line. Diane squeezed his shoulder, trying to offer some comfort. We won't let that happen. We've been through worse, and we've come out stronger. We just need to stay focused and be ready for whatever comes next. But as much as Jack wanted to believe her, he couldn't ignore the gnawing fear in his gut. Victor had always been a master strategist, and Jack knew that he was up against a man who wouldn't hesitate to destroy anyone who stood in his way. The stakes had never been higher, and the margin for error had never been slimmer. Jack turned away from the window, his mind racing as he considered his options. He knew that they needed to act quickly, to anticipate Victor's next move and stay one step ahead. But even as he planned his next course of action, the doubt lingered. Was he truly prepared for what was to come? More importantly, could he protect people he loved from the fallout? As the days passed, the tension within Jabot grew. The employees could sense the unease in the air, the way Jack and Diane moved with a sense of urgency that hadn't been there before. Rumors began to circulate, whispers of trouble on the horizon, of a battle brewing that could change everything. And then the first strike came. It started with a sudden drop in Jabot's stock price, a move that caught everyone off guard. Investors panicked, and within hours, the company's value had plummeted. Jack and Diane scrambled to contain the damage, but it was clear that this was just the beginning. Victor had made his move, and Jack knew that it wouldn't be the last. The attack on Jabot was a clear message. Victor was coming for them, and he wouldn't stop until he had brought the company to its knees. Jack spent sleepless nights in his office, poring over financial reports, strategizing with Diane and his most trusted advisors. Every decision felt like it carried the weight of the world, every move a potential turning point in the battle for Jabot's survival. But even as Jack fought to keep his company afloat, his thoughts kept drifting back to his family. He had always prided himself on being a protector, a provider, but now he felt powerless to shield them from the storm that was coming. If Jabot fell, the impact would be felt by everyone he cared about, and the thought of letting them down was unbearable. In the midst of the chaos, Jack received a late-night visit from Adam. The younger man looked tired, but there was a fire in his eyes that hadn't been there before. "Jack, we need to talk," Adam said, his voice urgent. Jack nodded, motioning for Adam to sit. "What is it?" Adam leaned forward, his expression intense. "I've been thinking about my father, about what he's doing. This isn't just about business for him. It's persona,